gone kaput, down. You know how they date hot water heaters, when they put them in? This one says 2009, so I guess its useful life is done. So I put on the ball cap, and then I put on the lace t-shirt to kind of counterbalance it. And Colleen says that she put her hair up in a show of sisterhood. So we're both kind of, you take us as you find us today, which is probably what's going to happen when you try to interview somebody for a new job. That's what we're going to be talking about today. My name is Kate Holmes. I am the web host of Too Good to Be Through, TGTBT, which perfects and polishes your resale, consignment, and thrift shop so that it makes you more money. And my cohort here is...
Hi, everyone. I am Colleen Lloyd-Roberts with the company formerly known as Brand Garden. That's what I want to call it. But we're really not going to call it that. But that's what I'm calling it this week anyway. So it's kind of fun. And I own a company where we build websites and e-commerce websites and mobile apps. And we teach and do digital marketing and help you make more money that way. So that's what I do. And we are excited to be here. We talk about all kinds of things. So today we're talking about hiring because that is a huge thing. That's a huge thing with everybody.
And more specifically, how to interview so that you get the kind of person that you want in your job. Now, first of all, you have to figure out when you need to hire somebody. And I think that's probably obvious to all of us when we're overworked. We are frustrated. We are thinking of doing things like limiting our consignments or closing our donation door or something of that sort. There is one person that I follow on the internet who literally posts on her Facebook page, "I'm sorry, intake is now closed for the day," when she gets to a certain point.
Wow.
Obviously, that's not the best thing in the world to do. So you need to sometimes hire people, and you need to, in my mind at least, have a budget that always allows you to have a helper or two from day one. Don't you think, Colleen?
Oh, absolutely. You need to have a budget. And I would like to, know your viewpoint on this, but I know some companies that are really successful that are they're always hiring, they're always interviewing. And so they don't wait until that, oh my gosh, we have to close up for intake. And I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but if you're constantly hiring and letting people know that you're always looking and always hiring, number one, I think it keeps your own staff on their toes because it lets them know oh gosh, if they hire someone better than me, I could be out the door. Also, I think when you get to that point when you're overworked, I think you get desperate and then you do the test and it's yep, they can breathe, they can fog a mirror.
Colleen and I both made signs for you folks for that day when you think, oh my God, I've got to have somebody, I got to have her immediately. I'm going to put a sign in my window. So we both made signs, 1, 2, 3.
Okay. So
now hiring must have a clue.
And mine is now hiring must be amazing. How come when I look at this, it's backwards, but you're not seeing it backwards?
You're in the Carolinas, right? That's kind of a backward place. What can I tell you? Now, the next thing you have to decide to do when you decide you need someone is you have to identify exactly who, what, how you need. So I really like to look at the best people you have. If you already have employees, the best people you have, what are their characteristics? What makes them successful in your business? And try to identify those traits and find them in another person. You hire people for their potential, not necessarily for their resume. I mean, people can lie on resumes, people can alter things on resumes, resumes can be misspelled. We had a big discussion about that recently, but hire them for their potential. And for heaven's sakes, don't cheap out. It's better to hire one person for $20 an hour than 2 people for $10 an hour because you get what you pay for. And if the person's any good, they're not going to take minimum wage from you. And the third thing is start working on your job descriptions before you need them. I think you should start from day one, writing down, okay, what do we do in the morning? Okay, how do we clean the dressing rooms? And so on. Don't you agree, Colleen?
I totally agree. And I also now the stuff that I've learned, my background and what I'm presenting here today comes from my training when I was in Sandler sales training and Sandler management training. So it's a formalized training on how to hire and how to work with staff. And one of the things that we learned as well is, in addition to the job duties, like if you walk through and make a long list of here's your job duties, but also like the characteristics that you would like to see in that person and the personality traits that you would like to see as well. Because if somebody is really good and efficient at something, maybe you're trying to hire for the sales floor, but if they have a bad personality, it's probably like not a good spot for them. What do you think?
Well, I especially think, especially in the first interview, you've gotten applications, you've gotten resumes, whatever, and you call in a batch of those people for a first interview. And I think it's really, really important on that first interview to put all the papers down, put the job description face down, and simply talk to the person. You can do it in your back room, you can do it on your sales floor, you can do it at the cafe next door. But remember, you're going to be working with this person. So the first thing you need to know is that person's personality. If they are very, very uptight, if they have no sense of humor, if they have another agenda of some sort, it'll come out if you just sit there and talk, have a cup of coffee or a Coke or whatever with that person. Forget anything else. Talk about, do you have any kids? What's your dog's name? Anything that you would do with a new friend, and get a feel for that person. Not only will you be working with her, but of course your staff will. And if it's a person who's difficult to get along with, it doesn't matter how good the resume is. It doesn't matter, what skills she has or he. It matters how they're going to fit into the culture and the core values of your business.
I love that you said that. I'm going to shout out to our watchers here so far. We have Keisha Scott. Hey, Keisha from Houston, and Kirsty and Anita, Jenny. Excellent idea to chat informally. Yes, Kirsty, thanks for that.
Hi. I saw Pam, but did she leave? Pam, are you still there?
Pam is, yep, it says Pam, and Jennifer from Naples. So hello, everyone. Pipe in if you have any questions, comments. So along those lines, this is really interesting, and this was really freaking hard for me the first time I did it, because I was interviewing salespeople. And Sandler, we're taught you don't even look at their resume. You don't even look at it because their past doesn't matter. What matters is their future, and what matters is who they are. Just like what you said, who are they sitting in front of you, and how do they feel they can contribute? And it makes the conversation more real, because they're thinking you're going to ask about the questions from their resume, and you're not. Like, you're having an actual, like, I don't know, like a dating conversation.
Speed hiring, right?
Yes, because you're, hiring for a date, hiring for an employee. There's a lot of similarities there. So, but it makes the conversation more real, and it's not as planned and I don't know what the word is for that I'm looking for, but it's
structured.
Structured. Thank you. Yes, it's more them. It's more real, and let's face it, that's really important.
And while you're talking to them, of course, you are kind of inculcating them with what you're looking for. We need somebody who's flexible. So you start talking about, what kind of hobbies do you have? What kind of plans do you have for traveling in the future? Do you like this? Do you like that? And that'll get you through that first interview really, really well. At that point, you'll shuffle out the people that you don't feel would be a good fit, either with just you or with you and your staff or with you and your customers. And then you'll be calling people back for a second interview. And that's when you really do take a look at the resume. You really do pose them some problems, whether they're math problems, whether they're getting an outfit together, the way we talked about a lot on the Facebook boards, giving them a task to do, asking them the 3 most important things about customer service, that kind of an idea, where you're really getting down more to the nitty-gritty of the job. All of us because we're not big corporations. We don't have the opportunity usually to promise, a wonderful future to somebody. She's not going to go from assistant manager of the store to VP of operations of a multi-store chain in any short length of time. So we have to offer various things. And one of the things that we offer, of course, is flexibility. So you got to get a feel for that person. Is that person flexible? I had a wonderful, wonderful person who was wonderful and who loved to work, but she could only do it on Wednesdays and Thursday mornings and Friday afternoons if her husband was traveling. So it was really, really hard to fit her into the schedule. So you start looking at that in the second interview. How well will their life fit into yours?
That's really awesome advice. And I'd like to add into that as well that when you're having this conversation, and again, this is something I learned from Sandler, is that especially as a small business owner or a medium-sized business, there's a lot of people that will come work for our companies that it's not their dream job. But he actually teaches you to find out what their goals are. Really, look, I'm sure your highest aspiration in life isn't to, come and do sales for Brand Garden, but the whole idea is that you find out, like we had a gentleman who was a young guy right out of college, and I said, I want you to be honest. I said, I know that this is not your dream job, but what is your dream job? And he really, really wanted to be a politician, wanted to take that whole political route. And so then you can kind of take a look at how you can help them grow in their job to get them ready for their future. And people really appreciate that more, and they appreciate the skills, and they appreciate some of the mundane tasks that everyone has to do. And you're also show as an owner, as a manager, that you care about their future and you care about them as a person and their goals. And so that, again, was a unique thing for me to have a conversation, because I would be like, oh, of course, who doesn't want to work for me? I'm like the dream employer.
I found out, and basically through Facebook, through connecting with employees from years ago in my shop, most of them did want to be and have become teachers.
Oh,
So that's kind of an interesting thing. I mean, if you are an 18-year-old or a 20-year-old and you're looking for a part-time job with my consignment shop, that might be a good thing for me to look for. If she wants to be a teacher versus a computer programmer or a nuclear physicist, something of that sort, that might be a clue to her personality. Teachers, I would assume, have the personality of being outgoing, of wanting to help people, of being positive role models wherever they go, versus maybe a computer programmer who's more introverted, more focused on one level thing to make sure she or he doesn't make a mistake while they're doing that. So that might be real interesting to talk about their goals and to tell them, that this is simply a job that's going to get them through high school or college, or that they're going through school and they're going to be leaving you, but you're going to see if you can help them achieve some of their goals while they're helping you achieve yours.
Yeah. And, the other thing too is there are a lot of people out there who would love to just have that fun job where it's a really fun atmosphere and don't have the pressures or the stress. And maybe it's a single mom who needs flexibility, or maybe it's a woman who is married and her husband makes gobs and gobs of money, and she just wants to get out of the house and feel like she has a career, she's doing something that she enjoys. And so the other thing that comes around, like in the interview for me, is their sense of fun, their sense of kindness, their sense of humor, because that tells a lot about a person. And it also tells about how a person handles stress. If they're more fun and jovial, they'll tend to not be as stressed out. They'll tend to be able to communicate better with individuals and people. So I kind of, look at those things as well in that second interview. And then I want to talk about, I'm a big fan of cultural index. Cultural Index, you can Google it. You can find someone in your area that administers it. If you don't have anyone in your area, I will recommend someone. I love Cultural Index. My girlfriend actually does this. A lot of people use that other one. It's
Oh, the
yes,
personality
yes,
matrix.
yes. But the reason I love Cultural Index is it is like disc on steroids, but it's done in a really fun manner. You really enjoy taking the test, and it focuses on people's strengths. So anytime I'm hiring someone, I call up my friend, I get the link for them to take the Cultural Index test, and she will tell me like this person is not suited for a sales position, but this person would be really good as your assistant, or vice versa. Like I was hiring for assistants one time, and she kind of went through and was able to decipher, like based on the personality and the different traits that came up, like don't hire these people for that job, and I took her advice. It was great. But it's called Cultural Index. I'm really, really a big fan of it. And I think that whether you use this or other tools, there are some tools out there that can help. And if you can avoid in that crunch of like, oh my God, we have to close our intake for a few hours because we're short staffed, like you just get really desperate. And then you start like hiring your best friend's neighbor's cousin and crazy people that your gut instinct is like, do not hire this person, but you're like, they passed the test.
Well, actually, people are so afraid of overspending on payroll that they actually shortchange their profit margins. They think, oh, I can't afford another person. I don't want to have an extra person on the sales floor. But, when you're spending that, $20, $25 an hour for 3 or 4 hours a day, that's $100 that you're spending. Are you getting $200 or $300 or $400 more worth of business, more worth of contact, more worth of social media working, things of that sort? We tend to be real stingy on our payroll when we probably shouldn't be. That's probably one of the few places that you should not economize, assuming that you have good people. I mean, you're not going to stand around and pay people who aren't doing anything. But don't stinge yourself out. Don't close that intake room. Don't say, or things aren't going to get out on the sales floor for 3 weeks. Don't say you can't watch a 5-minute video because you've got too much tagging to do. Make sure there's enough going on in your store to keep enough people busy to keep the dollars rolling in. If you're busy tagging and you're not helping a person, no lunatics. That's a good sticky.
That's for Kirsty. She says, I'm guilty of hiring lunatics while in a pinch.
Well, I'm sorry, Kirsty, but your culture in your store, kind of sometimes leads a little bit to Looney Tunes. I shouldn't say that, should I?
Well, what do you think about the evolving characteristics now as well? Because we are now, business evolves. We've all seen our businesses evolve. And what do we need? We need people who are social media adept. We need people who can learn a camera or who want to learn, or who are willing to learn new things. To me, that's even like a really big point, is someone who's willing to learn something new.
Yeah, definitely. And you have to have somebody who's open to learning things. You also have to have, and this has been true forever, you have to have multitaskers. You can't have somebody who's sitting there, looking at something on the counter and she doesn't realize that there's somebody else standing in front of her. She's got to be able to see, out of the back of her head. He's got to be able to be moving the couch and also saying, oh, ma'am, I'm sorry, I'm getting your way here. I'll be right back and I'll show you that sofa bed as soon as I move this one. That kind of a thing. You can't just be a furniture mover. You can't just be a social media person. You can't just be a tagger or a cashier in our shops, no matter how big you are. I mean, I operated with 6 people on the sales floor, and we still could not narrow our focus while we were on the sales floor, because anything could happen at any moment. So learning new things, being able to adapt, being willing to adapt, being excited about learning something new, being excited about being interrupted. I mean, That's a really good clue when you're talking to that person. If you keep on interrupting them and they start looking, that might be a clue to their personalities as well.
I love that. I would love to get paid as an interviewer. Colleen, your job is to interrupt every 30 seconds.
I do that naturally anyway.
So Kate, let me ask. So Pam says half a brain is all she asks for. Yikes. And Kirsty says she is a lunatic. Well, Kirsty, like attracts like. So girlfriend, we're going to have to level you up a little bit. So, hi, Jana. Jana is watching. So what do you think about trial periods? Like
oh, definitely.
work for me, I do and again, Sandler training, 90-day trial period. They have to commit to 90 days. And it's all laid out. It's like, this is your expectation for 90 days. What do you think about that?
Definitely have to have a trial period. I always had a trial period for people. I always told them at the beginning that the trial period served us both. That not only could we say, oh, I don't think you're right for our company, without being embarrassed, but they could say the same thing. They could turn around and say, this job isn't what I thought it would be. Thanks for the opportunity, but I'm out of here. So it gave all of us a way to relate without feeling that we had to have breaks on our expectations or be a little bit more polite than we really needed to be. It really was a trial period. I'll tell you a funny story. Have we got a minute? We got 1 minute. I had somebody who came in on a trial period in my store. My trial period was usually about 30 days, and we usually met about every 3 days. We would sit down together and talk about what was going on. And I had a young woman who was very smart, and very personable, but she just wasn't getting it. And I kept on extending and extending that 30 days. And we got to like 90 days. And finally, we both decided that this was a good thing, that we would continue on. And that person's name is Chris Kalman Swanson, who is now the owner of One More Time in Columbus, Ohio. She was on an extended trial period, and now she's been on an extended career for many, many decades. So that's kind of a cool story. The thing that I want to be sure to say before we close this is there's a really, really good thing that I heard recently about when you're talking to somebody, trying to get a feel for them and how they will work with you. And that is to ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being super lucky and 0 being, oh my God, I'm never lucky. How lucky are you? Now stop and think, what would you answer? I would answer about an 8. But if you've got somebody who answers 5 or 4 or 3, they're the ones who are always going to have car breakdowns, always going to have a sick kid, always going to have go to a grandmother's funeral, always going to stub their toe and they can't come to work today. So that's a mindset about how lucky you are. I think that's a really, really good question. I got together a bunch of links to all sorts of things about hiring and interviewing people that I'll put on our group later on today, about 10 links or so that you all can kind of experience and investigate this whole concept a little deeper. We don't have time, I guess, to go into first day of training, that kind of stuff, introducing your new hire around and so on, but I'm sure that's a subject for another time. Colleen.
Yeah, that's a whole nother call. And so my final parting thing is to share, again, in Sandler. So we were hiring for sales positions, which many of you will do. But we actually, in Sandler sales, were taught that you get your interviewee to actually pick up the phone and make a cold call. And that shows you, are they willing to take risks? Are they willing to kind of swallow their fear and confront it? Because they don't know about your products. They don't know, but you just get them to make a cold call and have some numbers there that they can call on. And are they willing to at least go for it and pick up the phone? And I remember on your group, somebody said they had a young man they were interviewing a sales position. And she said, I want you to go out and help a customer. And this guy did great. And the guy ended up picking out a second pair of shoes. I don't even think I would have thought to pick out a second pair of shoes. It was like picking out an outfit for girls' night out, and her feet might get tired. So,
Yeah, that was a great story. Was that Marianne? I think it was Marianne.
That was it. I don't remember who that was, but it was a great story. So I'm a big fan of, see them in action, put them in a sticky situation, send them out to talk to a customer and, like see them sweat. What do they look like when they're sweating? And it's funny, Kate, because there's one guy that I had to coax and finally like get him to pick up the phone and make the phone call. And then I hired him because I'm like, okay, he did it. And worst salesperson ever. Because I should have listened. I should have not have coaxed him. He should have just done it. Anyway, there we go. So we are done. Any final words? Do you have anything else? Lucky mindset, excellent. Cold call, bam. Yes, bam. The queen of cold calling.
I don't even want a cold call.
So that's all that we have time for. Go ahead and post any more comments if there's any other comments or any questions that you have. Thank you for joining us today.
I want to add one last thing is, if you learn to interview and you learn to hire well, it gives you so much freedom. What's the worst thing about retail is that you have to be there. But if you have good employees, you don't. You can go to market. You can go to Cancun. You can go to Europe. It gives you the freedom. So learning how to interview and learning how to hire and to train people is going to give you more freedom than anything else. So it's a really worthy thing to learn. And I'm going to sign off now. I'm Kate Holmes again from Too Good to Be Through.
Bye, everyone. And I'd like to say that next time, maybe we'll talk about once you've hired them, how to keep them.
That's also a good topic. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Bye now.
Bye.